Hello and welcome to a new episode of TesterTech. And I had the i3 video posted, and it turns out it was a quite successful video for my channel. So I had some requests on making a follow-up video. This is that video. I hope you liked the video. And before we get started, so I installed i3 on my Fedora 33 workstation. That's the way I set it up. And I'll have all the scripts and all the code repository referenced in the description of this video. And yeah, I wanted to do a little bit special. I also have a camera on my hands showing the keyboard, so it's easy for you to follow along with your own keyboards. And before we dive in, my control key is mapped actually to my caps lock key. Just give you an heads up on that one. And without further ado, let's dig into the video. So I was thinking, what kind of follow-up video should I make? And I thought, well, how did I begin with i3? And it was mainly the keyboard. So what you see in the screen, the left corner, let me use my mouse here. Here, left corner, you have my keyboard actually. So I have a camera pointed at my keyboard. And on the right side, I have my face there talking. And on the main screen, I have i3 running. In the state I have it now, and what I will do is just show you how to get started. And to do that, let's open up Draw. So I hit Windows, you also see it is Super D to open up this menu. This menu is a Rofi menu, and I'll show you how you can configure it. And you have the menu here, and you can go down or you can type. In this case, I want to navigate to, I think it's, then let's open the files. So the files is Nautilus for me, and it's there. So let's discuss the tiling window manager. So tiling window manager, is it for you? It depends. Do you like your keyboard a lot? So the mouse is yeah, secondary, I would say, with the tiling window manager, and the keyboard is the primary. So, and second question is, do you tinker with your setup a lot? That's the second question. So tinkering is playing around with it, optimizing it and making sure it fits your needs every time. Optimize that workflow. And that's also the third point. Do you want to optimize your workflow in the most optimal way, so that you can do your tasks efficiently and use scripts and stuff like that. So if you say yes to these three, then probably a tiling window manager would be interesting to look at. I have some cons and some pros. Let's start with the cons first. So the out-of-the-box experience with the tiling window manager is bare. So bare meaning it's quite minimal. So you do have to customize it and make it your own by the use of configuration files, and maybe some tiling window manager even required you to write some code. But you spend a lot of time customizing the window manager. Could also be an advantage depending on the amount of time you want to spend on customizing it. Some pros. Everything can be managed precisely. What I mean by that, if you have like scripts, then you can, for example, start on a workspace 8, you can start a browser automatically, or maybe a Teams program, or some other type of program. You can start on a specific window. You can script and restore certain layouts and stuff like that. So you can precisely manage your setup the way you want. That's a big advantage. And then I think the regular window managers, like the floating window managers, they are limited in that capacity. Or let me say it like this: KDE you can configure more, but GNOME, for example, it's just working like it is, but it's just the way it's meant to be. I think the second point of the pros is quite light. It's a light window manager, and you can also optimize your workflow. Let's move to the next. So one video that really stood out for me is this one. So how to choose one to start with. So how to know what kind of window manager actually want to start with. And Aline Abler, on a conference, she had a brilliant talk about this exact thing. So she discusses these window managers, these styling window managers, and i3 is also one of those. And this is the link. Of course, I'll have the link to this video in the description. And this video, I watched it actually the complete 2 hours. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant video to get an overview of what kind of window managers there are, how they work, how do these layouts work, stuff like that. So I think it's a very good resource to start learning about these window managers and then pick your own. But this video will focus on i3. Okay, it's installed. So like I said in my previous video about the Fedora i3 spin, you have a certain out-of-the-box experience. But what happens after that? Now what? So I think the first thing you want to learn is probably the moving around. So how can you move around? And you move around by doing commands. And then I'll show you a couple of them. And then also the configuration is important for i3. So how to configure it, what configuration files you want to look at, stuff like that. And then some utils and then some further customization. But let's first, what you also always see is if you have it installed, then you open the default terminal with mod and then enter, and the mod key. In my case, I mapped it to the Windows key. But default, it could also be Alt, depending on the way you set it up initially. You can make a choice there. I choose the Windows key, and if you just have like it loaded and you have a blank screen in front of you, just press Windows Enter, so mod Enter, and you will open up a terminal. So that's the first thing to do. And if you repeat that, you'll open up a new terminal and open up a new terminal, stuff like that. So you see now you have 3 terminals open and the PDF file is still here. If you want to close it, then just press Ctrl D and then we'll close the terminal. In this case, it's like similar to exit command and it will quit the terminal. So just getting started, opening up a terminal and then closing the terminal. That's like the first step. And let me open up a new one, and my cursor is now here. And I will not touch the mouse, but I will hold the Windows key and then we'll hit the H. You see H moves to the left and then L moves to the right. So H is left, L is right. So you see the focus also shifting, right? So you have now 2 terminals open. If you want to quit a program, press Windows Shift Q, then you quit a program. So these are all my bindings, and I will show you my config file real quick in a minute. So if you have this window open here, so let's say you want a window below this, you press Mod V in my case for vertical split, and then hit Mod Enter, and you have a window below that. Okay, and now if you want to revert that, because if you have it repeats the window below that. Let's say you don't want that. You press, in my case, Mod N, and then you can do it like the horizontal split. Okay, that's it for that one. Let's close all these. Oh, one other thing. If you've like this, close that one. And close this one. So now these 2 are tiled. If you want to have like more screen real estate, for example, you can hit Mod S. Mod S, yeah. So Mod S on the left panel, and now you have stacked. So if you had Mod and then arrow keys, you can switch between these 2 windows now. If you want to revert it, press Mod E again, and then you will back to the original state. Okay, so I showed you a little bit about moving around. Let's hit, okay. Let's close this window and let's go back to this one. because next point is move to the workspace, and you have the mod and then workspace number. For example, now you see here 1, 2. I have 2 displays. This is 1 and the other one is, no, the secondary is 1 and the primary is 2 in my case. If you want to open up a new, just hit mod and then the number. And now you're there. So you see here also 3 is spawned, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Doesn't matter. Let's go back to 3 and then hit mod enter, and then you have a terminal. So this is workspace 3. And you can hold mod and come back to the second one, and the first one is my right, so you don't see that in this recording. And go here. Workspace 4. Okay, so you can easily navigate between these workspaces. So, example, you have the window here and you want to hit mod B, in my case, open up a browser. Now a browser is being loaded. And if you have the browser here on this window, you, for example, want to send it over to workspace 5, you just hit mod shift, and then hit 5. And now you can see here above you have 5. Now you can navigate to 5 and you have that browser there. Okay. Okay, and also very important, of course, how to exit. If you hit mod shift E, and you will have they call it a nag bar, I think, the yellow bar here, and you can exit, yes or no. In my case, I do no. So that's basically moving around, and also a good resource to have is like this ref card. Let me open up that browser. Control L, Control V into there. Here you go. So this ref card is very handy. So they also explain that the Alt key mod 1 by default, but in my case that's Windows. So Windows Enter, Windows J. I think this I remapped these ones because the navigation, I have the Vim navigation. Let me show it real quick. So let's go to here, and I have an alias set up, and the alias is i3conf. So the i3conf will open up Vim and open up the i3 configuration. So the alias will be Vim and then config i3 config. It's an alias. And of course I will share my i3 configuration for what it's worth. Let's go here, and then I have here set up my home directory. And then exec is like a shorthand for, so XC shorthand for exec, no startup ID. Some font, that's a title font here. And then we have the lock screen here. So Control Mod L will lock. So X lock. You can select another one if you want. Then refresh i3 status. So this one is not used at this moment, but that was for my volume control, and I have it set up differently now. Here we have the mod is mod 4, that's the Windows key, in case you were wondering. And then I come to the navigation part. So set up K, down J, left H, right L. Okay, that's the Vim bindings. I use that one. And the floating modifier, for example, if you have like a floating window, and you trigger that, in my case, by doing mod shift space. This is a floating window. Now you have in the tiling window manager, you have a floating window here, and the resize is Alt in my case, and then you right click. Okay, so use mouse and mod 1 to drag windows. That's holding Alt. You can drag the windows. So if you're tired of this floating window, then you can hit Mod Shift Space again to put it back into its place. Okay, next one, Alt Tab. So maybe I showed you before, but let's do it again. Alt Tab brings up this Rofi menu, so it's cool. Right, so now you have the workspace also there, and here you can easily navigate to that. So Alt Tab, I think that's a cool one. Okay, and it just binds to Mod Tab. So Alt is Mod 1, and on Tab, and then executes Rofi. I think it's a model window and show window, like some simple command. I see that I need to scroll a little bit more. So starting up the terminal is like the i3 Sensible Terminal, and it's your XVT. It's the i3 Sensible Terminal, but yeah, you can spend a lot of time customizing this your XVT. That's a whole different topic, to be honest. So that's you can also change this Sensible Terminal to be whatever terminal you want. If you hit that Super D, Windows D again, and GNOME terminal. So this is also working. So you can also use this one if you want. And for example, copy paste sounds like standard functionality, right? Copy paste, but in your XVT it's not arranged for you. So you don't have copy paste from a terminal. Could be a real downside. So I do have it, but it's a workaround with providing some URXVT pearls. So some Perl modules you need to install to get copy paste working. Okay, so I would say if you start with i3, it's fine, but the terminal customization itself, it takes a long time to set it up. You can use your standard terminal you're used to already. So in my case, it's GNOME terminal, and I think it's fine. It's working okay. So you can change that, of course, with this one. So example, if I have the i3 Sensible Terminal, I could also put GNOME terminal in here and remove this. Let's exit out of there. Let's reload. And if you hit Alt Enter, you see the GNOME terminals being spawned. Okay, let's quit all these terminals. Navigate, quit, and quit. And let's open up the vim config again and search for GNOME terminal. So a quick side note, I think it's not obligated to use vim, but it definitely helps. In general sense, it helps with with navigating terminals and editing text and stuff like that. But it's a whole different topic on itself, to be honest. So I think the i3 Sensible Terminal was here. Sensible Terminal, exit. Let's reload. Oh, and I reload by hitting Windows Shift R. That's reloading. If I hit Alt Enter now, then it should pop up the Sensible Terminal being your XVT. Let's go back to the config. And let's see what we have here. So Firefox, if you hit Windows B, I will launch a browser, being Firefox for me. Okay, let's move to the next. So the quit, Mod Shift Q, I showed you that a couple of times. And the start menu is the Rofi. Okay, Rofi. And then change focus, the navigating between the windows, I showed you that as well. And you can also use the cursor keys and also use the HJKL navigation. Okay, move focused window. You can, if you have the window for this in this case, and you want to move it to the right, hit Mod Shift L, then you replace it, Mod Shift H, you move it again. Okay, you can easily move windows. I see my screen key has stopped. Okay, let's open up screen key again. Screen key. There you go. Now it's on top again, like we wanted. Sorry about that. Okay, let's go to the i3conf, and I showed you how to move windows, make new windows, stuff like that. Okay. Another cool thing, I think it's so the floating toggle. I showed it to you as well. You have the full screen, the horizontal and the vertical. So this one, I needed to, I had a conflict, of course, with the mod H here, because it's also moving, right? So if you have navigation moving to the left, it conflicts and then it will throw an error. So if you have a conflict, you will see a red bar on top of the screen. You have to correct that one. Okay, vertical stays V. And then the full screen, if you had mod F, then it's a nice full screen here. And you can toggle it by hitting the same button again. Stacked, tabbed and split. I have that here. I also showed you that. And the tiling, so this is cool. It's a floating window. If you have mod shift space, and then you have that, you can toggle the float. And you can see my terminal move to the right now. If I want to move it back to the left, hit mod shift H and then it will move there. Okay, focus parent. I think the one also is the scratch pad. So for example, if I want to move the browser out of the way, now I'm focusing the browser, you can also see the focus here in the title, right? So you now see Fedora Mac is quite small, but Fedora Magazine is now here. So for example, if you have the user guide here and you want to move that out of the way, that's the scratch pad where the scratch pad comes in. Mod shift minus, and now it's gone. But if you hit mod minus again, you can pop it up and you can have multiple of these windows. Okay, cool, right? And how do you even reverse it? Maybe it's mod shift minus again. I don't know how to actually revert it. Maybe mod E. I don't know how you move something which is in the scratch pad. If you hit mod shift space, mod shift space, now it's back again. Okay, next some workspace stuff. Okay, cycle workspace, reload, restart, and then exit. And these are some, if you had mod R, you can resize the windows. As you can see, hit enter to confirm. Let's move to the next. Go back, down. Okay, my laptop specifically. So on Fedora, I must use Lite on my Intel, and that's a whole different topic, to be honest, but for me this works. I had a different laptop and I used X backlight, but you will have to see what brightness. I will not focus on this part, but just to show you that I use light, and then I can change the brightness of my display. Okay, so this is another cool trick that if you have like the class VirtualBox, it will always move to workspace 8. So if it's uncommented at this moment, but if you have like certain titles, in this case VirtualBox, then it will automatically move when it starts, move to workspace 8. That's cool. You can obviously play with that. Here are some auto starts that I want to do in i3 when it's launched. Compton is the window manager. Auto renderer, this is for my my display. Actually, I should remove that because I have a different one. Copy queue is my copy and paste tool. Okay, copy queues, clipboard manager, then the polybar start, it's triggering this one. So if you go to Home Scripts Polybar Start, I will show it to you. Scripts Polybar Start. Just this one. So kill all Polybar and then Polybar top bar. So we'll show you the Polybar config and also have alias for that. So polyconf. Let's see where I hear it. So it's on the top. So here you have the top bar, you have all the modules you want here. So bar, top bar, and then you define which modules you want to show here. Modules left is i3, the standard default takes care of those windows there. And the center is X window, this is the title. And then on the right I have the volume, the backlight, the WLAN, the battery and the date. There's all these icons here are that. Okay, the modules specifically, you have that like these brackets, module X window for example, you can tweak it. You can tweak it here. Module i3, you can also tweak it. So it's like an IDE file, this. Okay. Okay, so the alias, in case you're wondering, so the bash, my bash RC is also an alias, but I have these aliases set up here. And then the polyconf is vim config polybar config. I will share these aliases with you. Okay, I showed a lot, and let's go back to the presentation. Let's go here, because I think we come to the next part, and that's I already tipped it, but these tools and utilities. Let me explain. So the polybar I just mentioned is the bar here above. And row V is like if you hit Windows D, you have this row V, or you hit Alt Tab. Alt Tab. This one, you have the window here, that's row V. Fe is for the background. So you have these, now it's the mountains, and every time I launch my screen, launch my computer, there's a different background because I have it set to randomly. And I think I also have it here, like in my auto scripts. Here you go. So Fe, randomize, BG fill, home pictures, wallpapers, EDG. That's for me specifically, but you could also have your own folder, of course. And then it will do a randomized wallpaper every time you launch the computer. So what if I just hit select here, open up a new tab here, and then paste it in there, hit enter, you will see a wallpaper change here. Okay, so that's basically that command. Randomize a couple of times. Okay, let's go back to the configuration, because Redshift is also a program as for the ice train. I also launched that one. I have a wrapper script for that one. Let's go to here. So Compton is the window manager. You have some nice shadows because of Compton. Redshift, like I just said, is for the ice train prevention. When it goes dark, then my color will submit less blue colors. And here you have the screen. So that's a renderer slash LX renderer. If I launch that, so hit Super D and then LX renderer, the monitor settings. You see two displays. You can configure it, cancel, and if you had, I think it's a renderer, auto render, a renderer. Yeah, so this is the A renderer. Let me do it like this. So you see the display 1 here, display 2 there. So the cool thing about this one is that you can save this. So you can save this configuration as a script. And then you can put that script in your auto starts, and then it will do it like this, because the display 1 is my primary. You can also do like, I want to do this as my primary. and then you will just save the script, and then it will launch the display like you want. So that's a very cool one. Let's exit out of there. So that's quit this one. So that's the A renderer. The Bluetooth manager, Blueman, just getting your Bluetooth. That's also a downside, of course, of the tiling window manager is very bare experience. So the Bluetooth is not activated. So you need to activate it using, in my case, Blueman worked for my mouse. And then your XVT, like I mentioned before, it's a terminal. So these are all the utilities I use for my workflow. And some config to do, and I have the aliases here like I mentioned before. You can go into the config. I discussed most of the config with you. The X resources, that's also for like the colors and stuff like that. So as you can maybe see here, I have a color scheme, and the color scheme is let's quit. Let's not save anything. So vim into the x.x resources, I think. Yeah. So there's also the X resources also takes care of the your XVT configuration for some parts. And yeah, you have some modules here, like I mentioned before. So for example, keyboard select is a module. You have to do it in here, and then download a perf file. And yeah, there's some other config. It's too much detail, but just know also the display is here. For example, in my case, I wanted 96 dpi, so have bigger dpi, so it's easier to see. Some other font config, and yeah, some fonts there. And then in the low, you don't see it. Let me a little bit bigger so you can see. Is here the themes file. In my case, it's home egraph. That's my username, and then x files. It's a directory that's also in the dots files. And then themes and Gruffbox. So I have a Gruffbox theme file, and I use that one, and it will style your XVT. And so this terminals, this is the Gruffbox theme. But you can select other themes if you want, but it's just yeah, it's just there. Some font here, what's being used. Okay, so I showed you that. Let's exit out of there and not save. So the X resources I discussed briefly, and the polybar config I also showed you, and then the bash RC is optional. So the bash RC for me it's handy because you have easy access to all your configuration files, like the rxvt, rxconfig, open up the resources, vim, i3config, the bash RC itself, polybar config, and then also reload the. So if you want to make changes to your X resources, and then you have to like merge it, xrdb, to your X resource to take it into effect. If you have changes here on your XVT, and then you hit this alias, so rexvt, then it will close and it will make. So next time you launch it, it will have these changes merged into the new terminal. So I think that's cool as well if you were going on that route. Next one is additional resources. So I did not create all these grid configs myself, but I used resources. So first and foremost is the i3 docs, yeah, the user guide, and then the Arch Wiki is also a great resource actually to get up and running with i3. And then some YouTubers. I think Budlabs, Budrich, it's a very cool resource. So he has some very nice videos on i3, and also on his own project i3s, his i3 assistant. Let's go to that. Here's the Budlabs. So it's a yeah, the way he talks is like he explains everything like he's explaining it to a total newbie. So it's very easy to to follow. But he has quite a lot of videos on this. So if you go into the playlist, and if you go into, I think it's, for example, Let's Linux is a playlist, has 49 videos. And he explains a lot about Polybar, about Rofi, some other Dunst, Compton. Yeah, just a lot to take in here, and he explains it really easy for you to understand. So, but Rich, please keep up the good work in that regard. Always fun to watch, but to be honest, I don't watch all these videos because the basics I know now, but it really helped me just getting to grips with all these kind of cool things. Okay, let's go to the next one. And I think Codecast is also a good resource to start. He has 3 videos on i3 and some Jumpstart configuration on how to rise your desktop. So they're really compact videos. So I will definitely say check that out as well if you get started. And then also Luke Smith, i3 Rising. I think Luke Smith has moved on from i3. I'm not sure even, but he has some videos and on it as well. So have a look there and see what you can use. Okay, so have fun diving into this rabbit hole. And let's go to the closing of this video. That's it for another video, guys. I hope you liked it and maybe learned something new. Please let me know in the comments if you missed something, or maybe you want me to dive in a little bit deeper of a certain subject. And if you haven't subscribed already, please don't forget to subscribe. It helped me a lot knowing that you like this kind of content. Leave a thumbs up if you liked the video, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.